and I've said to her, you really must start filming or photographing your progress from having, a flat and nothing in it to she was sleeping on a blow-up bed the first few nights, and now she's going around collecting stuff from free cycles. So I think it'd be really good to chronicle how nice you can make a flat with free stuff.
Do you think your sisters say behind your back every time we talk to Nicola about anything we're doing in our life, she tries to turn it into a project, a podcast, a social media strand, a business? Do you think they say, "Oh, could she just leave us alone to get on with our lives without turning it into a commercial proposition?"
Yeah, I think they do say that, yes, but I don't care because
no.
I can't help myself.
No.
I see opportunity everywhere, Judith. Welcome to Own It, Your Business and Your Life, with Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. In this podcast, we're going to cover everything you need to embrace to become a successful entrepreneur, marketing, money, and much, much more. How to create a business doing just what you love. How to own it, your business and your life. This one will be fast, funny, feisty, and very lively. So sit back and enjoy the show. Good morning.
Hello, caller. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. Coming from sunny Shoreham, except it's not. It's
in my ears, you sound about 1,500 miles nearer. Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, very much so, yes. I haven't actually dug out my podcasting microphone from Nelson's electrical gadget stash yet, but I will do.
Well, it may not be necessary. The sound of you today is as good as I've heard it for a very long time.
Well, I'm just using my computer microphone as I do every week now because my snowball mic packed up.
No loss.
No, it was really, but, built in with obsolescence, aren't they?
Indeed. Bearing in mind what we're going to focus on,
yes.
Tell us about your last week without revealing too much, if you see what I mean. I'm being secretive, secret squirrel.
Oh, okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, I've written my notes in advance.
Okay.
And I've done exactly that.
Okay.
So I've moved back from Greece with 2.5 suitcases, the half being a wheelie bin that goes in the cabin. And Phoebe heroically, not volunteered, but stepped up to wheel the suitcase that was large and heavy, but didn't really had a dodgy wheel, where the handle didn't go up properly because it got damaged on the way back from Australia last time. So she had that and her little wheelie thing as well. So I couldn't have done it without her, really. She's been going to the gym, so she might be tiny, but she's strong. And oh my God, my legs ached and my feet hurt so much when we got back. And then the next day, my back was absolutely killing me. So, but she got up and went out for the evening, and next day was, none the worse off. So I felt my age a bit.
I was going to say, I think the problem is when our back aches after something like that, it's because we've been using the wrong set of muscles to move the suitcase, isn't it?
Just any set of muscles aren't used to working at all.
No, quite.
So yeah, left. Had a little bit of a mental wrangle with a few items. I have left 3 things for Theo to bring back because I just couldn't fit them in and I forgot them, which were photographs of children and exes and departeds, and my little coffee filter that sits in a little ceramic pot. Can't believe I left that behind. That's my most treasured possession. Phoebe wanted to bring the wok, but there was nowhere for it. And I wanted to bring a white, fluffy, synthetic throw I bought in Katarina's last winter, just because it's white and fluffy and luxurious. But I managed to have a good stern word with myself and reminded myself that each of those items only cost €30. So.
Well, the fluffy things you can buy in England for like $11.99, $17.99. They're a bargain. Who is Theo?
Theo is a friend of Nelson's,
okay,
who is out there for a week with his girlfriend Ellie. It's their first holiday together.
Oh, lovely.
And they're being remarkably stingy with the photos on Instagram. They occasionally tease me with just one, and they do seem to be enjoying themselves. But hopefully that's going well and they're having a lovely time.
Well, I think there's a correlation between those two facts. The nicer the time you're having, the less you can be bothered to post photographs on Instagram.
Yes, it's right. But I have caught them up at 360 Bar, which is the one with the fabulous view. I've caught them up the top of a mountain, and I've caught them on a beach. So they've done the 3 main things that you should do.
Oh, I think that's enough. Relax. If you're listening, you guys relax.
Yeah, really. No, they won't be listening. We're far too old codgery for them. Theo's only 20. Okay. So, yeah.
I don't mind being, as my mum used to say, I don't mind being an old codger.
No, I don't anymore. I quite enjoy it. In fact, I'm getting codgerier by the day. More codgy, more codgy.
Well, actually, given that it's probably more codgy, but I prefer codgier in a funny sort of way because it is such a silly word. And I do think we should, it's all right to be a codger, but I do think we should guard against becoming codgier.
Yes, and I think we should definitely.
What I'm saying is it's all right up to.
No grumpier.
Yeah. We've got a little bit of an overlap here. I think let's breathe. I think we've got a bit of an overlap.
So the one thing I've noticed I'll come back to, Irving had cleared a lot of his stuff out, but there was still a lot of stuff which is now sitting in the hallway, waiting for him to bring bags for life and remove it on various trips. And they managed to break the Hoover. So I'm trying at the moment to repair a pull-along Hoover, which was brand new from Dunelm Mill and only seems to be missing one bit of plastic. And I've replaced that with cardboard, which should work, but isn't. So that's my task for today, is to get the Hoover fixed. Are you still there? Or have I bored you to death?
I am. No, it's just, ironically, we do have quite a dodgy connection today. No, we've got a delay. So when you speak and I reply, I end up talking over you. You fade in and out a lot. So I'm only catching, say, 4 out of 5 words.
Oh, my God, I can hear every word you're saying. How funny. Shall we move on and try and tough it out?
Yes.
Okay. What's your week been like then?
Right. Okay. Well, first of all, I should tell you that I don't have a desk in my little cottage, and I only need a desk for our show notes. So I have fashioned one out of 3 empty wine crates.
Nice.
Well, actually, no, but better than nothing. So the highlight of my week was last night's beautiful moon. It's full tomorrow on Friday the 13th. It rose while it was still daylight, and it looked full because it's only 2 days shy of full. And then as it got darker, it was bigger and brighter. It was spectacular, and you know how I love the moon. Can you see the moon from your new gaff?
Yes, we remarked on it last night as we were watching Carnival Row, which is our new favourite thing.
Okay. I put out an appeal this week for new television programmes, and Mark Nicholson tried to persuade me to watch Carnival Row. I'm not having any of it because, of course, it's got all of the genres that I least like. But moving swiftly along, this week has been significant because all of the people who live in the big house started to come back after their 2 months away in France. And the mum and dad, who are 10 years younger than me, are self-employed business owners. So they were working while they were in France for 2 months. And over the weekend and on Friday night onwards, the parents, the son and his girlfriend, 3 dogs, and the couple who'd been looking after 2 of the 3 dogs, who were deemed too furry and, to be honest, too fat, to go to France in the heat of the midsummer. They were all lovely people, and every time I let myself into the big house, I'd no idea who was going to be there, which is sort of fascinating, but it's also a lot more socially stimulating than I've been used to for as long as I can remember. And they all come in here and update me with their news. And on Monday morning, the mum and dad went straight into the office and then away on business for 3 days, Tuesday, Wednesday and Thursday. And they're going to London for the weekend. So I won't see any more people any more often, if that makes sense, because they're very busy and the company will be part-time and very much when I'm least expecting it. So I'm thinking of putting up a couple of flags outside my little studio. Green for go, which means come on in and chat to me, and red for don't come, I'm naked or I'm sleeping or I'm working. Yeah. So I'm going to need a sort of semaphore kind of system with a couple of flags or something like a stop-go board that men the road have.
Yes, that sounds like a good idea. Can you not just have a in or out or recording or
anything would do? But anything would do. But because there are blinds, but they're like those office vertical slatty ones, which really I only draw in order to get some privacy when I'm doing something I don't want anybody to see me doing. But that doesn't mean that in the daytime you want anybody just to come in now that it's term time again. But anyway. I've been exploring a bit locally. There's a lot of giggle-worthy villages. Remember I told you about Feckingham or whatever it's called, and that there was another one yesterday called Upton Snodsbury, which I liked quite a lot. As you're driving along, they make you giggle, if you know what I mean. And I've been into the local town, the local town's reputation precedes itself, because a client of mine's sister lives there, and she's always raving about when she goes to see her sister at the cinema, you can order a wine and cheese plate and have it brought to your seat, which sounds very civilized, doesn't it? And the other news this week is I read a whole novel over the weekend, and it's months, possibly longer, since I felt relaxed enough to do that, around the responsibilities of house and pet sitting. And I did look after the 3 dogs here on Tuesday. And then yesterday, the son and his girlfriend rocked up, and they were here to do it. But it is lovely to be able to return some of their kindness by helping out. I did everyone's laundry yesterday, and after 2 months away travelling, the kids particularly, boy, did they have a lot of laundry. And actually, we ran out of hanging space. And at that point, I said, I've washed everything I can. We've had to stop because we've got no more room to hang it out. I mean, it's not that it's a burden when you've got an electric washing machine, obviously, but I have to come out of here, go across the stepping stones, up the stairs, through the house, down into the basement. It's quite a challenge for the knees.
Yes, but at least it gets you up and about, doesn't it?
It does. And I think that while I'm doing it, and I hang on a bit tightly because there's quite a lot of hazards while I'm doing that. And in another house I stayed, for the first year, the washing machine was in the basement, down 2 flights of scary stairs. I remember thinking, why do people put their washing machines in the basement?
I don't know. I suppose it's to get it out of the kitchen. That people don't want it in their kitchen anymore.
Well, people don't want it in their kitchen, but I don't mind it in my kitchen. Do you?
No, I don't. I like it nice and handy.
I think it's because I'm slightly obsessed with laundry, so I kind of want to be able to bung in a load whenever I feel like it.
Yeah, I like to put some in every morning, I must say.
Well, the planet savers listening to us will be appalled by our profligacy with the planet's resources.
Yeah, well, there's 3 of us in this house, so it's easy to fill up.
Oh, well, absolutely right. Yeah, that's right. Now, tell me what's fueled your fire.
Right. Well, the weather means that I've got more work hours. I only used to work in the mornings in Greece because it got so hot by 2:00 you couldn't bear it, and you felt like your insides were melting. So you had to get down the beach. Now I find, obviously it's cool, and that's a strange thing in itself, not to be constantly seeping gently. And so I've got more work hours, and I'm trying to find things that we're going to talk about that in the middle section, but I don't want to start working long hours, but it's just, I'm finding it's easy to get the things done that I found difficult to get done in Greece because I wanted to get down the beach. To come to the end of the Money Gym launch, it's all up and running, and bar perhaps having a 10-week course that I can then record and sell, and then perhaps occasionally having the odd workshop in Gatwick. There's not an awful lot more to do. It's running itself now. But I do have to start interviewing people about their biggest money tips. So I thought I'd tack that on as part of the interviewing for my own podcast I want to do. And I've got to get organised about that because a lot of people have responded. There's a new thing. Now, what was his name? Mark something. And he was very into podcasting back in the Academy days. And he started a thing called Podcast Guests. And you can put yourself on there if you're looking for guests for your podcast or if you want to be a guest for for other people's podcasts. I think there's a small charge to put yourself on as being a guest. And it's free if you want to get guests. And I think it's taken off like a rocket. So I've got a big pile of people because I put myself on as looking for guests. And of course, people never take any notice of what you've said you want in a guest. So I've got to wade through a big pile of people and respond to them with my 3 questions because they haven't answered them, of course. So, yes, looking towards getting my own podcast going with a full interview and then getting onto other people's podcasts as a guest and then weeding out from the full interview the money tip, which will then automatically go onto the Money Gym podcast, which I've just submitted to iTunes today. Yeah, thinking about what I can do to fill up these empty hours, really.
Well, beware filling up.
No, absolutely. But, I mean, one of the reasons I wanted to come back was I feel ready to partake in something a bit more energetic work-wise. I feel like I want to get in amongst it again. And I've just got to be careful what I get in amongst and make sure that it pays well and that I enjoy it and it doesn't take up all my time, as you say. 2
questions arising. What will you call your own podcast? Does it have a name?
Well, it already does. It's called Clicks and Leads.
Ah, right, okay.
So it's a marketing-orientated podcast, but I do like to ask people for 3 tips about mindset, marketing and money.
Yes, got you. And did you have a lovely weather day yesterday?
Yesterday? I can't even remember yesterday.
You see, because we're back up in the 22s here.
Well, not in Shoreham, we're not. It was quite chilly yesterday.
Well, you always say there's a breeze down there. There's a breeze here as well, but I started out yesterday in a jumper and had to take it off.
I went for a coffee with Heather on Sunday, and it was lovely and sunny until the sun went down and it started getting cooler. And I saw Sarah yesterday. She came over and we talked all about her brand new flat in Worthing, which she's got, which she's furnishing entirely on free cycle. And I've said to her, you really must start filming or photographing your progress from having, a flat and nothing in it she was sleeping on a blow up bed the first few nights, and now she's going around collecting stuff from free cycle. So it'd be really good to chronicle how nice you can make a flat with free stuff.
Do you think your sisters say behind your back every time we talk to Nicola about anything we're doing in our life, she tries to turn it into a project, a podcast, a social media strand, a business? Do you think they say, "Oh, could she just leave us alone to get on with our lives without turning it into a commercial proposition?"
Yeah, I think they do say that, yes, but I don't care because I can't help myself.
No.
I see opportunity everywhere, Judith.
Well, you could. I'm going to throw down a challenge. You can see the opportunity, but keep your mouth shut, because actually, it turns that's gratuitous advice.
Yeah.
That's your challenge, okay? I want you to tell me on the podcast between now and Christmas. Guess what? I saw a challenge, an opportunity, but I didn't offer it up to either one of my sisters.
Oh, okay.
I let them get there by themselves if they wanted to.
Yes. God, that'd be restful for them and me.
Well, it could be. It could be brilliant for the family dynamic, if you know what I'm saying.
There's been a bit of a spanner on the family dynamic works, though, on keeping shut.
Oh, God, you've only been back 5 days or something?
No, it's not me.
Oh, good.
It's Heather's partner, Richard, has got a son who plays Minecraft, and he didn't stop when other people grew out of it. And he plays Minecraft for a couple of hours a day. He records himself doing it. He edits it down to 20 minutes, and then he puts it onto YouTube, his YouTube channel, and Twitch. Now, before Christmas, we heard that his YouTube earnings were up to about £500 a month. And then in about April or May, he let the bombshell drop that he was earning £2,000 a month. And Heather informed me on Sunday that his YouTube earnings are up to £10,000 a month now.
Yeah. How old is he?
18. He's just about to go to college. And Heather's saying...
To study what? Do you know what he's going to study?
Yeah, filmmaking, cinematography.
Okay.
But he is just earning a fortune. And Heather has been long thinking about doing a YouTube channel called The Brighton Sessions, and where she just literally sings into a camera with a guitar. And she did it once for someone's birthday, and it went semi-viral on Facebook.
Yes, I remember. It was a good one.
So this has rekindled her interest, because a lot of people have heard about the fact that you can make money on YouTube by going viral or, doing stuff consistently and building up a following, but nobody actually believes it. And Heather particularly, I think she doesn't really believe that there's money to be made in their hills, but she's seeing an 18-year-old in her own house making £10,000 a month from
it's different, isn't it?
Yeah. Really different.
Yeah. Now let's just stop here for a second and check my facts, as I checked one of these facts with you, I think, in the last week. I think the second fact is, once you've had, is it 4,000 hours of people watching you in the first year of your YouTube channel? Is it that? I think you can't monetize it until you hit, is it 1,000 subscribers who've watched between them 4,000 hours in the first 12 months? I think it's something like that.
I think it changed recently to you don't get any money until you've got 100,000 subscribers.
100,000?
Yeah.
No. I follow somebody on Twitch on Twitch who went onto YouTube recently. One of my financial forums is disseminated via Twitch, and he had to have 1,000 subscribers. But then this further thing came out that it was that there had to be 4,000 hours watched within the first 12 months.
That's really interesting you say that, because everybody is telling. Everyone who teaches YouTube is saying, if you've been spasmodic with your YouTube channel, you need to stop and start a new channel, because YouTube penalise you if you stop and start.
If you're too slow.
If you're spasmodic with your uploading.
Well, this guy that I follow, he puts out at least one Intel call every day. It used to be for an hour. Now it's 30 minutes, but that's 5 times a week, Monday to Friday. So, and they're on YouTube, and he does it broadcasts simultaneously between Twitch and YouTube. So the 1,000 subscribers wasn't difficult, because he already had at least that many people watching him on Twitch. But the consumption on YouTube has to be that we need to check that and it has to be within 12 months of you starting your channel.
And how many hours do you think it has to be?
I think it's 4,000. But I think I learned that this week.
Yeah, that sounds right to me.
Yeah.
In first year, because everyone I know is starting new YouTube channels.
Well, if you think about it, if you've got 1,000 subscribers, and I don't think that's hard,
600.
100,000 is, but if you've got 1,000 and you can persuade them to watch 4 hours each, job done.
Yeah. So what you need to do is you need to start. So I said to Heather, start a new, Brighton Sessions YouTube channel, and then you can share it onto your existing channel.
Yes.
Or, but you need to be uploading consistently on the new channel to get any attention. That's very interesting.
Well, you have to do that thing, don't you? That Sally did. You have to do the 31 days and then keep going.
Yeah, absolutely. And consistency is the hardest thing to do with your online marketing.
Unless it fits in with your existing business model. This man was already broadcasting every day, so it fitted in. He didn't have to do anything new or different. He just had to have it on YouTube as well.
I wonder if you have to download and delete from your existing channel the stuff you want to share, or whether you can download and upload to the new channel, or whether the original channel gets the credit for the content first.
I don't know, but you're the woman to find that out.
Yeah, I am, aren't I?
Yeah.
Right, I will find out. I will make it my mission, because I'm very interested in YouTube advertising, but I wanted to get my channel right before I started that.
Yeah, so. You've got to be busy and active and useful and interesting and compelling.
Well, I think all of
they're just 5 words to describe the same thing, really, which is you decide that YouTube is your main route to market, and you put stuff on there every business day that people want to be involved with.
Yeah. Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, we'll investigate further.
Okay.
So what about you? What's fueled your fire?
Oh, I nearly forgot that. I'm so interested in the YouTube conversation. Doing some work, not a lot, talking to clients, reading and responding to their weekly check-ins. There's an interesting thing going on where at least 3 of my clients are taking premises in one way or another, literally branching out. And a couple of my extracurricular activities getting back on track now. It's September 2 and important meetings are happening to move projects forward. Feels like momentum again, after the holidays. And this ebb and flow of it was quiet and then it's busier again is how it should be. That's a life. If it was go, 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 I don't think I could stand it. But I am, now that we're 3 podcasts into September, I'm appreciating for the moment, our having changed up a gear, a bit like you saying, I don't want you working more hours just because you've got them, but to know that you can when you want to, I think is great.
Yeah.
Don't lose and your life just because you've come back from stupor.
Well, we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So, okay. So, what interesting that about taking premises, because I had a conversation with someone yesterday about someone we know who has got an office in Lewes. Now, he lives in Hove, and Hove to Lewes in the rush hour is absolutely horrendous. But he says he keeps trying to persuade these other 2 people, one of whom lives in Shoreham, one of whom lives in Chichester, to go and use desks in his office so that there's a bit more of a community spirit. And they said, you must be absolutely bonkers. Why would we want to travel from Shoreham and Chichester, of all things? It's bad enough to get from Chichester to Shoreham, to Lewes, which is the most inaccessible place because it's only got a literally tiny little dual carriageway and it's always snarled up with traffic. What are you thinking, lad? Why have you bothered? Why aren't you working from home?
Well, I mean, I've done it. I've done both a lot in my life. It's like work at home, work in an office, work at home, work in an office. They're not. There isn't one that's better than the other. They're just different. And I think it changes up the energy. So if you're a person that knows that you're less productive on your own at home, then going to the sort of hot desking share thing makes sense. Yeah. And Alice has got a studio. I don't know if you saw that on social media. Her first art studio. Yeah. Well, that's exciting. And Karen, the perfume maker, has taken a barn in the middle of nowhere with which to run workshops and mash up perfume spells, so like a sort of workshop slash. So she doesn't have to pay out thousands in venues all the time. People can come to her. Yeah. So there are good logical reasons for all of this, and their energy around it, all 3 of them, is fantastic, and that will have a lasting effect, a lasting good effect on their business for a while. And change is as good as a rest. Yeah. And then in 3 years' time, when they say to me, I've changed my mind, or I want to work at home again, or it's too busy at the office, or I've realized I don't need all this space, or do you know what I mean? I find it's a circular thing. I don't think there's a right argument. There's an A or a B, and either of them work for you for a period of time, is what I've discovered.
Yeah, I'm dangling hints in front of Pete, who's got a co-working space for his business right in the centre of Brighton, just up from Hotel Divan, where we had a very lovely lunch. So I'm sort of dangling. He did say Phoebe could go and work over there at any point she wanted to. So I'm thinking I might say to him, that offer for Phoebe, could I come over one day a week? Just because
I wouldn't, Nicola, I wouldn't dangle hints. Just ask. Pizza, pizza, what you see is what you get, guy.
Yeah, I suppose so. Yeah, and I think it might be good for me to be around because there's lots of amazing companies in that building. So it might be good for me to be around.
I think you've got to have what I've got, which is 40 years of self-discipline, in order to work successfully at home. Most people find it isolating, and what's that word where you put off doing things? Procrastinating-ish, because there's no even sort of vague accountability by sitting next door to somebody else. Do you know what I mean?
Yes. No, I don't have either of those problems, but I do think it would be good for me to get out of the house once a week.
Socialising, yes. Yeah. So does that lead us nicely into focus of the week?
It does a bit, yes.
Go. So I've written here Starting Over, which is one of my favourite John Lennon tunes, and then I've written Back Home, because last week that was your word of the week. Back home to Shoreham. Tell us about it. Tell us about the opportunities and the challenges and your plan.
Well, it's been very seamless. Having suddenly decided and thinking it felt right to come back, I have seamlessly come back and moved into Irving's old room at the flat, and whoever was living here for the last few weeks has gone somewhere else. It's all very effortless, really. I know I need to make a new life. I need to make a social life. I need to make a work life. I need to work out what I want to do, because I've been faffing about a bit over the last sort of 6 months, as you know, and I have documented on this podcast. But so I've been wondering what to do, whether to go back and do the whole done-for-you agency work. As you know, I've got one marvellous done-for-you client I absolutely love working with. I've got the whole ClickFunnels thing, which is an affiliate. I mean, I really honestly don't think there's any point in me creating training videos any longer. I might as well just send people to the ClickFunnels One Funnel Challenge through my affiliate link, because
totally agree. Yeah.
So it's just so it's constantly updated as well, because they run a challenge every month and they're updating the material. So there's no point in me trying to train people how to be internet marketers anymore. There's better places for them to do that, and if I can earn money by recommending them to the best, why wouldn't I? And then I've got my own businesses, i.e. things like the Money Gym, where it's a training course that I can update occasionally, once a year would do it, and it could be evergreen. So I've been sort of mulling over all those things, but in the meantime I also know I have to create a social life here. I've got obviously Kim and my sisters, and I'm not feeling like I don't want to go out. I'm feeling like I do want to go out. So I'm going to go down to Rope Tackle later, the local arts centre, and find out what they've got on. I'm going to find out from Phoebe, what we could go and do together. We think comedy, stand-up comedy might be quite fun. And there is the Comedian. I mean, Brighton just down the road is absolutely amazing. It's a short bus ride away. And Phoebe drives and I'm on her insurance, so I can use her car whenever I want to, she said. But I also want to do new things. So I've been trying to find out this week if there's a poker game locally. It seems like the nearest one's Hove, which is and it's in a bridge club, which looks a bit old-fashioned, shall we say.
A bit codgery.
A bit codgery, yes. Yeah. I'm a bit concerned about the proliferation of grey heads in the photographs. And also been looking for a writing group, which apparently there is one. We have houseboats here, like quirky, big old boats that are converted, and they're on the river and everyone lives there. There's a writing group once a month on the houseboat, so I've sent them an email as well. So I'm looking for things I could do. I accidentally stumbled on the University of the Third Age, which is something I'd never heard of before I started watching The Real Marigold Hotel, when they go around and I think it's very big in places like Japan and places like that. Yeah. Then there is a very active University of the Third Age here in the local community centre, but again the pictures were a little bit, it was for retired people, and I suddenly realised I'm not actually retired.
Well, you're not retired, but for a packet of hair dye, we would both have grey hair.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I know. And in fact, funny enough, Phoebe's doing my hair today.
And it doesn't really mean anything, to be honest, because people that you'll meet in the University of the Third Age will be rocket scientists because they're trying to keep their brain alive. It's a bit like me talking to you last week about lumosity. It's like people who are actively engaged in stuff which is stimulating. I bet you'll find them stimulating, not conjuring.
Well, I will, because everyone in Stupor was in their sort of 70s, late 60s, early 70s, up to 80. And I had a lovely bunch of friends out there who were all older than me. So
it's no bad thing to be the youngest in a group either.
No, I suppose not. It makes you feel much younger. They have monthly get-togethers around the corner where they have a speaker each time, and then they have lots of different interest groups. So there's creative writing interest, so it comes up very high on the search engines. When you search for anything like creative writing or whatever, the University of the Third Age comes up very, very high. So it feels like starting over, but I'm not really. I'm just doing the same stuff but in a different place. But do you think that's why people like moving house or renovating their houses? Because it gives them this feeling of starting over.
Well, in September term, newness. We kind of like newness. It's like another crack at something. Yeah. I think the thing to avoid, and I'm not suggesting this about you particularly, but it would be so easy to do, is to slide back into the way it was.
Well, I can't do that, can I? Because everything's changed.
Well, one major thing has changed. Everything else is the same. I think it could. I think it's a risk for everybody, which is we have this. What's the word? Unrealistic expectation that September and Monday and the first of the month, New Year. We do, and the easy tug, is back into the old way. And the thing about Stupor was, it couldn't be the same, could it? It couldn't be the same.
And the thing that I loved about Stupor was that I didn't have all those pressures on me to go and do those things. I was able to just go and wallow and get over things without feeling like I should be getting up and getting on with things.
Well, I don't think you need to feel that now. That, for me, that hasn't changed. There you could drop into things when you felt like it. Why can't you do that here?
Well, absolutely. And the other thing I want to go and check out the swimming pool, newly refurbed swimming pool, because I loved swimming in Stupor. So I really need to get my baggage along to, the newly refurbed swimming pool in the daytime 3 times a week, I think.
You haven't mentioned something that I know you love.
Which is?
Live music.
Yeah, I'm not so keen on that nowadays. Oh, jazz, do you mean?
Well, anything where you're at a live, where there's live music going on.
Yeah, I don't feel particularly drawn to that. I feel quite drawn to go and sit. We're going to the jazz on Tuesday night with Heather, where she gets up and sings, and there's lots of other people getting up and singing. It's sort of like jazz karaoke, if you like, but for talented people. I like the element of jeopardy on that, because some people are not so talented. But I don't feel any draw to go to live music per se. I think I've grown out of that, perhaps.
Okay.
Well, we'll see, though, won't we?
Well, Brighton's a good place for that as well, isn't it?
It is. I mean, Brighton's awesome for everything. You've got lots of different things. But I think I'm just going to try and focus on getting out, twice a week in the evenings, perhaps, and then perhaps 2 or 3 times a week during the day.
I'm just going to throw a spanner into the works.
Go on, then.
Well, we've still got this much daylight. None of this is difficult. When it gets difficult is when the clocks go back.
Yes.
Because there's dark and cold.
Yes.
At the moment, it's mild and light.
Yes, but I have gained a few hours in the morning, because in Stupor it was so dark and so quiet.
Well, you have for now, Nicola, but the day shortens dramatically towards Christmas. What I would say is, if you can establish the habits between now and the end of October, you're sufficiently motivated and keen to keep going when it gets tougher to leave the house.
Yeah. But, what I was about to say there was I've actually gained quite a lot of hours in my day, because I'm waking up at sort of 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, whereas in Stupor I was finding it hard to wake up before 9. So I've gained a couple of hours first thing in the morning. So I could theoretically...
You have for now, is my point.
Yeah,
You've forgotten how the time clock, the length of our day shortens dramatically once the clocks move.
What I'm trying to say is that I'm going to try and get all my work done by 2 or 3, like I did in Greece, and then go off before it gets dark and get out the house before it gets dark.
Yes, that's good.
Yeah, because otherwise I won't do it. You're right. You end up getting cozied on the sofa again.
Well, if you think back to all the years, and I don't know if you've done it, but adult ed, where we all pile in September and learn something new, up to half term, it's great. Then the clock's moved. It's like, oh, I don't.
Do I have to go out?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, when it's raining on a dark night, unless you're actually very engaged by the topic, it's like, I think I might stay in and watch, what's that program called? Carnival, what's it called?
Carnival Row.
Yes, that seems much more seductive after half term.
It does, yeah. And so the other thing that has been interesting is Sarah's taken this flat. She's been doing, house sitting, as you know, and she's been doing it for a long time. She's been doing it about 4 or 5 years, and she's now taken a flat because she said, by September I want to have my own place. And it manifested in the most marvellous way. Some people that she pet sits for, they got a dog called Dastardly, who won't be sat by anybody but Sarah, and so these people own flats, lots of flats, and Sarah has been decorating some of them in between the pet sitting gigs, and they've said to her, well, why don't you take one of our flats and you can do what you like with it. You can have a second person as a lodger, you can do Airbnb with a second bedroom, you can do whatever you like. And so she it really did just come out of nowhere. And the ulterior motive for these people letting her have this flat was so that she'd carry on sitting dastardly because nobody else would do it. Yeah. And they wanted to keep her nearby. But she said it's absolutely astonishing the amount of brain space that it takes when you're sitting, constantly looking for the next place to live.
I told you that last week.
Yeah, you did, yeah.
I said I was absolutely exhausted after a year of it, let alone 5 or 6, how many she's done. And I just needed to, when the woman who owns this house came in to see me on Monday night, she said, just relax and have a holiday. Because I was straight into, and I want to do this and I want to move out when so-and-so comes. And could you just chill? She just wanted to give me a place, like they wanted to give her a place. Yeah. There are some lovely people in the world, aren't there?
Yes, there are. And so she's finding she's got a lot more brain space. And I suppose what I'm finding is that, because I've come back and it's been so effortless, I've got brain space to think about what else I might want to do now. And the grieving took up so much brain space that I wasn't capable of thinking of anything else. And so now that's sort of abated.
I think that might be the most important point you've made in this thing, is how can we all free up emotional space and brain space to just give ourselves enough room to work out what's important and what we want to pursue.
Yeah. And funny enough, the lack of clutter is important for me there.
I know.
I'm busily, Irving's room, he likes lots of stuff around him, Irving, to feel cosy. Yeah. Where I'm rapidly clearing out all the stuff that he kept and never looked at.
Yes. Never forget our first ever show, 242 episodes ago.
Oh, yes.
Was about clutter clearing.
It was. Because I don't believe you can work effectively in a cluttered environment, and I don't believe you can think effectively in a cluttered environment.
Well, it may not be physical clutter, you see. That's the point you're making, which is Sarah was saying, there's a lot of energy tied up in where am I going to go next. In my case, there was a lot of energy tied up in that, but also meeting the commitments where you are and, keeping the kittens out of the shower. It uses up a lot of resource, like bandwidth.
Yes.
So it's not, some people manage very well in clutter. They don't notice, or they don't care, or they like it, or something. And I think we should avoid being judgmental about that. However, you've got to have some sort of space, whether it's emotional or physical or whatever type you need, to create your best life, I guess. Yeah. And for some people at a certain stage of their life, where, say, children would be taking that up, they haven't got that.
Yeah. I was watching something interesting yesterday about the Buddhists divide your life into 4 stages. You've got the young you've got the childhood stage, obviously, about learning and being at school and learning how to be a grown-up. And then you've got the young adult stage where you're going out into the world, forging your way, creating capital and bringing up children. Then you've got the age where you're briefly unencumbered, and then the grandchildren start to come along and you contribute to the family dynamic like that by helping to look after those. And then you go into the 4th or 5th age, and I can't remember what it's called, but it's hang on, I wrote it down. It's really interesting. It's called, a second. Here we are. Sannyasa. And it's the simple and self-focused time. You have no obligations to others, and you're able to concentrate on the fulfillment of yourself on a more personal level. And, that's where a lot of people then go off perhaps traveling, and they go around the world, and they sell their house and they downsize. And I think, that's an interesting concept as well, isn't it? So that if you could get more sannyasa into your life, then, you can... It was the thing about being selfish versus selfish, which is
if you don't have any children, as I don't, if you've always been single through choice, I think my whole life has been sannyasa, and that's why it was easy for me to be successful in business, is because nothing got in the way of that.
Yeah, absolutely. So yes, there we go. That's the other thing I wanted to make about this was it's things like they say that willpower is easier if you don't have too many decisions to make every day. And I think leading an uncluttered life, and like I do, always wearing the same clothes every day, not the same clothes obviously, but different versions of the same clothes. I don't have any decisions to make about what to wear in the morning. I don't have any belongings to take care of. I think all of that adds to the lack of brain clutter, which then enables you to do more creative projects. All your energy is not taken up with decision making.
That is about energy. You've just got energy for what's important rather than squandering it on what's not.
Yeah.
And again, other people might think, I'm with you on the Steve Jobs clothes thing. Other people might think, one of my favourite jobs in the day is deciding what I'm going to wear today. But people who have a different feeling about that.
Yeah. So what I don't want to do is clutter up my life again. I want to take...
okay. So I'm going to ask you a proper coachy question.
Go on then.
How will you notice?
How will I notice?
When it starts to clutter up.
Well, because I'll start to feel stressed, won't I?
Well, we'll notice, because we'll hear it.
Yes.
I'll hear it, the listeners will hear it, we'll hear it. How will you notice? That's the thing. You might want to have just when you're marching around the neighbourhood, how will I notice, I would ask myself, and I think your higher self will give you the answers.
Yeah, and it's I felt yesterday a little bit like I should really crack on and do lots of stuff and everything. And then I had a phone call with Pete. Pete who came out to stay on holiday with us, and he's had a chat with someone who he knows who is looking to. They're representing a Swiss bank in the UK who's just opening, and they said, we're just about to take a member of staff on in this office in Lewis, and we're looking to find someone. And Pete said, well, you won't find anyone who can do all that stuff, but Nicola could, and she's just back. So in the space of one phone call, I might have sorted myself out with a lovely little project for the next year without even having to try or do anything.
Presumably wouldn't need to go to Lewis down the dual carriageway all that often.
He's made that very plain. There'll be no going to Lewis.
No, right.
So that was nice. So even just as I was thinking, I really should do a lot more to attract some new clients, a new client was attracted without me even having to do anything, which was nice.
My last question on this topic was, speaking of, I forget what you just said.
About attracting new clients.
Speaking of attraction, have you kept up your Abraham?
Yeah, I am still looking at Abraham, and enjoying it, yes.
Shall I tell you something interesting about where I'm staying? I think I told you this before, about 2 weeks ago. There is a television the size of Wales here, but I can get YouTube on it. So I watch and listen to my Abrahams on there, which is easier than doing it on my iPad or my computer somehow. Well, mainly because I haven't got a desk, I think. So I have it on the computer while I'm going about my business in the morning, if you know what I mean.
Pottering about, listening to Abraham.
Yes, having it on in the background. So and when I'm sitting at my desk, I kind of do one. But when I have it on in the background, it runs on into the second one and the third one, ones that I wouldn't necessarily have chosen, which is quite interesting. Now, I don't generally have the television on in the daytime. I'm a terrible snob about that, me. But this seems to be an exception, because I think of Abraham, funnily enough, as work.
And it's subliminal in the background.
Yes.
So you're not paying too much attention to it, so it's going in. And
that's right. And I can turn it down if it's a little bit loud.
And like you say, the universe is choosing the things that it thinks you need to know.
Yes, that's quite interesting, isn't it?
Yeah, very nice. I like
that. Quite fun.
One.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay, so that's us. Anything else we want to say about starting over?
No, but is there anything you wanted us to hold you accountable to, watch for, or anything like that?
I hate people holding me accountable to anything.
Except our clients both all love that, don't they?
Yes, but I don't. I really that makes.
You want wriggle room?
I just don't feel I need anyone standing over me wagging their finger. Thank you very much.
Well, that's an interesting connotation to accountability, isn't it? Yeah. What about if we were just lovingly,
No, I don't want you doing anything. I don't want anyone.
All right, fair enough.
doing it.
Dear. Okay, fine.
I don't need it, Judith. I'm self-directed. I mean, the only time I need help is when I ask for it, not the rest of the time. So I hate to sound ungrateful, but no.
I don't think you are coming across as ungrateful.
Oh.
I
would hate that. I don't want to be, but I certainly don't want anyone in a position of authority over me ever again. Thank you very much.
It wasn't really authority either. It's interesting the connotations you're making to this. But remember, as you tell us about your new life, as you have about your old life, that we have got 400 people plus a week listening and making their own assumptions and judgments.
Let's wait till we get to project updates, and I'll tell you exactly.
Okay, all right. First of all, then, you tell me your word of the week.
Adjust. I'm having to adjust to sleeping with more noise and light. I'm adjusting to waking early, and I'm having to adjust to wearing socks.
I haven't adjusted yet to wearing socks. I'm not sure where my socks are. I think they could be in a suitcase in the boot of my car. But I have worn my slippers a couple of times already, but now it's hot again, so I'm all right.
Yeah. What's your word?
My word is cuckoo, as in the nest. I don't feel like that, and I'm pretty sure they don't feel like that about me being here, but I want to guard against it. I want to be sensitive, and I want to be helpful where I can, so they don't. And the people, my first experience of house sharing, it didn't arise. The second one was difficult, if you remember, and I think that's made me sensitive to not outstaying my welcome when people say, come, stay as long as you like. No, it's like that's a double-edged sword, as I've explained to you before. So there you go.
Yeah. I think it's nice that they're popping in, but, like you say, you need a way of...
that hasn't been a problem for me yet. It's just like, eventually somebody, because they're so sort of, not manic, but hectic, and there's so many sort of different factions of them. For instance, tomorrow, 2 chaps come, and, that I've got this. All I've got is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 vertical panels of an entire wall of glass. And it's like, oh my God, at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, there'll be a man wheeling a wheelbarrow across the lawn. So I've kind of got to be up. And when the cleaning lady was sent over to do me on Monday morning, I had to get up at 7:20, which is not my normal time. Good job I did. She was knocking on the window before I'd drawn the blinds back, before 8 o'clock.
Oh, good God.
I know. So you kind of got to be ready. You kind of got to be ready and yet protect your dignity. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do know what you mean. It's a bit like in Greece, people used to pop round and, often in the middle, you say don't come between 11 and 12 and they'd mishear you and say, that's when they can come.
Yeah.
And, I do remember. And obviously sometimes I woke up to find people in the gardening, or bashing the olives down in the back garden when I was asleep.
Yeah.
Things like that. Very strange.
Yeah.
Project updates then.
Yeah, not for me. You go. I have thought of one, actually.
Oh.
But
not ready to start.
Not ready to talk about it today, I don't think.
Oh, how exciting.
No, I don't.
It's not.
It's exciting. No, it's not exciting for you. It might be for me. Off you go.
It's an unexciting project, all right. Well, I had a look at our stats to see what had happened since we've been back. And we've only had one episode out, haven't we? Which was Mum Guilt. Yeah. And we had a big spike last week of 700 downloads, which was spread over the episode we released, Mum Guilt, and seemed to be spilling over into the episode before that as well. So that's nice, isn't it? So,
yes.
Really very, very promising uptick in numbers there.
It's energy in a way, isn't it? You put something out
and share it everywhere.
It draws. I don't know, an energy match.
Yes, I think it does. You're right. Okay, who or what's impressed?
Oh, shall I go?
Yes.
My favourite programme is Who Do You Think You Are?
Yes.
Last night was the last episode in the series, and they saved the best till last, which they always do. And it was Mark Wright from the Essex television programme. Do you know who I mean? Mark Wright? No Carbs Before Marbs. Quite a handsome young man, married to Michelle. What's the Essex programme called?
The Only Way is Essex.
Yes, I've never seen it. But
I've seen a few.
One of the guys that came forward from that, you'll recognise him when you see him. He's very handsome, blue eyes. He's got something about him. He is an East End lad or an Essex boy, and he did make one slightly ignorant remark, but it didn't spoil the show. And he turned out, like the entire series, I tell you what was really interesting, about 50% of the people in this series, about 2 or 3 generations ago, they were all shocked and upset to discover that some of their relatives had been nicked for stealing. And all it reveals, actually, I mean, they're discovering this live on television and their reactions are being responded and they're a bit shamed and they're a bit shocked. But actually, 3 generations ago, life was so tough that if you wanted to feed your family, you had to steal things, basically, is what the program has made me realise. And then, of course, you make it worse because you go to prison. If you get caught, you go to prison and then you can't feed your family. So we had a little bit of that. But on the other side of his family, we went back 9 generations. He had a massive family tree. And it was fascinating and very moving. And it was about being persecuted. He turned out to be, his older generations turned out to be Jewish. And they were living in Spain, where the Spanish Inquisition enforcibly made everybody Catholic. And if you, whatever your religion was, you had to become a Catholic. And so if you were Jewish, you had to go underground. And if they discovered or thought you were doing that, they would lock you up and torture you and burn you at the stake.
God.
And his 9th generation grandpa was a fencing master. And so, of course, they dressed him up in a fencing outfit and made him do it. And he was an absolute natural. So that makes you think, is it in the DNA? But the story, I knew about the Spanish Inquisition. I didn't know it had gone on for 300 or 400 years. And I knew the king and queen made it compulsory to become Catholic. But, when you see that filtered down into one person's story, not only do you learn a lot about, fills in the blanks about history that you sort of vaguely know about from school, but it makes it very real. Yes,
I've been struck this series by how many of them had incredibly poor backgrounds.
Yes.
Several of them, trace their ancestry to America and Canada, and they were interesting programs. But I really, really loved the Jack Whitehall one, where he and his dad traced their family tree back, and it turns out that their ancestor was a real...
a wrong un.
A wrong un, exactly.
Yeah, he was.
Totally against the politics of Jack Whitehall. And
Jack was appalled, and the dad just went quiet. I thought that was quite uncomfortable viewing that one, actually.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed that one. It was very good.
Sharon's gran got nicked for stealing stockings.
Yeah.
Kate Winslet's Reddy's got pinched for, I don't know what he stole, but it was potatoes, I think, to feed his family. And you go back to that, like literally 3 generations ago, people who are now successful had families that couldn't feed themselves.
Yeah.
That's amazing, isn't it?
It's such an interesting programme.
It is an interesting programme, yeah. Last night's was the best. And I remembered, of course, I was quite psyched up for it because I was looking ahead and see, right, who are they putting on last? Oh, he'll have an interesting story. Oh, he looks unlikely to have an interesting story. I think it was that, because you don't know, they don't know, the researchers when they start this, who's going to turn out to have an interesting story.
Yeah, and apparently some celebrities they investigate and they turn out to have such a dull background.
Well, quite. Yeah, so it actually must be quite an expensive process to put themselves through there. I thought a couple of these were quite dull, to be honest. But last night's is a corker. When you get there, let me know what you think. I loved it.
I can't wait. And of course, Joey Essex, who was one of the most famous exports from The Only Way is Essex.
Who is loathsome, of course.
Is he loathsome? He seems quite sweet to me. He's on Celebrity MasterChef at the moment.
Yeah, one of the reasons I can't watch it this year. So I think he gives. Well, I'll tell you what. Then Mark Wright balances him. I think Joey gives Essex a bad name, and I think Mark Wright ends up giving Essex a good name.
Okay,
there you go.
Well, I'll look forward to that. I mean, Joey Essex is proving quite a talented natural chef. Which is
good. I'm good, and I think that's the surprise. I'm not watching it this year, but that's the surprise of that program, isn't it? Who you think, oh no, I haven't got a chance, and then they turn out to be, quite. And I think that's interesting because what I think it shows you is that although I think he's dreadful, there's something in him that rises him to the top. So somebody chose him to be in a telly program. He's turning out to be a surprising good cook. Do you see what I'm saying? There's something in people that people pick up on. Yeah.
So what I've been impressed with this week is I sat down to watch a documentary with Nelson on Sunday about Travis Scott, who is one of the biggest rap artists in the world and happens to be married to Kylie Jenner, who is one of the Kardashians. As you know, I'm a big fan of the Kardashians, hard-working family, really incredible businesswoman at the head of it. And this rap documentary was surprisingly moving. He is absolutely, he's like, up at the top level. The shows are absolutely amazing. The lifestyle he leads, and they lead as a couple because they've got a baby as well called Stormy. And I ended up blubbing through the whole thing. because he'd come from such humble beginnings, and his mum brought him up. He shared a room and in the projects and everything. And his grandma still lives in the same house because she doesn't want to move from the area, but he makes it as nice as he can. He goes and visits in his Lamborghini. But I just find it, the tears would not stop seeping from my eyes.
I do think people's life stories can be very moving, Nicola.
Yeah,
that's why.
It's more about, I tell you what makes me blub, it's achievement. And it's achievement through hard work. And nobody ever sees all the hours. And his best friend said, we could tell from when he was young that he was going to be something, because he just never let up. He never let up drumming on things. He never let up bashing things, never let up writing lyrics. He was at it from a young age. And I just love those hard work, the 10,000 hour stories, basically. And I loved it. And Nelson found it highly hilarious that I blubbed through a rap documentary. But then the other thing I've really enjoyed this week, which I binge watched and couldn't put down, was Years and Years, which is written by Russell T Davies, who is a long-standing writer of the BBC, and he wrote Queer as Folk, which was, I haven't seen it, but it was a very popular programme about gay people. And the thing I loved about Years and Years was it was all about, and it was quite chilling, actually. I mean,
that's why I didn't watch it, because it's quite close future, isn't it?
It is close future.
Yeah,
and it's very fascinating to see how they developed a few themes, like the whole virtual reality thing. But it did have a surprisingly upbeat and optimistic ending, so I think you might enjoy it. But it was brilliant and brilliantly acted, fantastic.
You've got top talent in it, haven't you?
Yeah, Emma Thompson was awesome, and she was playing a Trump-like figure, where they just say anything they want. It doesn't make any sense at all, but some proportion of the population respond to it, and that's how they become incredibly popular. So it was chilling, it was clever, it was well written, it was brilliantly acted, surprisingly optimistic ending, and I absolutely loved it and binge watched all 6 episodes this week.
Very good. I mean, one of the things you get by being in Blighty, as revealed by a friend who's just emigrated to Australia, is easy access to top-notch telly.
Well, I've largely had access to top-notch telly in Greece. But
I did say easy access. You get easy access here,
Yeah, it did take a little bit of shenanigans, put it that way. But no, love that.
Yes, quite.
If you get a chance, watch the Travis Scott documentary about the history of his.
I am hearing both of your recommendations. I am noting them down for the show notes, and I plan to ignore both of them because they don't have my name on them, either of them. But I'm sure the listeners will be excited by both, and I think the blubbing is perfect.
Blubbing is always good, yes, especially in front of your children.
By other people. Yeah, it is. See you next week.
Yeah.
Bye. Okay, bye.
You've been listening to Nicola Cairncross and Judith Morgan. Do come and visit us at ownitthepodcast.com. We love to hear your feedback. You can find out more about Judith and visit her on her website at judithmorgan.com, and you can find Nicola at nicolacairncross.com.